Imagine being told before this tournament began that Spain would fail to score against a nation playing in its very first World Cup. Most people would have laughed. But on June 15th, inside Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that is exactly what happened. Spain, one of the tournament favorites and the reigning European champions, dominated possession, created chance after chance, and finished with 27 shots. The final score? 0-0. Their opponents were Cape Verde, a country of just over 500,000 people, ranked outside football's traditional elite and making its World Cup debut. Yet for 90 unforgettable minutes, they defended with incredible discipline, and goalkeeper Vozinha produced one of the performances of the tournament. That result wasn't just an upset, it was the moment everyone realized this World Cup was going to be different. Because over the first 15 days, the script football fans thought they knew has been ripped apart. Underdogs are refusing to play like underdogs. Favorites are finding that reputation alone no longer wins matches. And for the first time in history, the FIFA World Cup features 48 teams, creating more opportunities for emerging football nations to prove they belong on the biggest stage. The expanded format has completely changed the tournament. More nations, more contrasting styles, more unpredictability. On June 15th alone, every single match ended in a draw. The first time that has happened at a men's World Cup in nearly 70 years. Belgium were held by Egypt. Iran drew with New Zealand. Uruguay couldn't beat Saudi Arabia. And Spain were stunned by Cape Verde. The biggest names in world football are no longer walking into comfortable opening games. Every opponent believes they can make history, and some of them already have. The most dangerous team at this World Cup isn't necessarily the one with the biggest stars, it's the one with absolutely nothing to lose. And that's exactly why the first 15 days have produced some of the biggest surprises we've seen in modern World Cup history. Imagine this for a second. A month before the tournament, analysts were busy predicting the usual favorites: Spain, France, Argentina, Brazil, England. The conversation was almost identical to every World Cup we've seen over the last 2 decades. The biggest stars would dominate. The biggest nations would cruise through the group stage. And everyone else would simply be trying to survive. But football has a habit of making experts look foolish. The expansion to 48 teams wasn't supposed to change the balance of power overnight. Instead, it has completely changed the psychology of the tournament. Smaller nations no longer arrive hoping to avoid embarrassment. They arrive believing they belong. Many of their players already compete in Europe's biggest leagues. They play against world-class opponents every single week. The only thing they lacked was a stage big enough to prove it. Now they have one, and they're taking full advantage of it. Take Cape Verde. Before this tournament, most casual fans couldn't name a single player from their squad. Yet against Spain, they defended with incredible organization, frustrated one of football's most creative attacks, and left the pitch celebrating a point that felt like a victory. That wasn't luck. It was preparation. It was discipline. And it was a reminder that international football has never been more competitive. The surprises didn't stop there. Egypt held Belgium to a draw in one of the biggest results in the nation's modern football history. New Zealand fought back twice to earn a dramatic draw against Iran. Saudi Arabia refused to back down against Uruguay. Every single day seemed to produce another result that nobody had predicted. For the traditional powerhouses, every match has become a test. Not just technically, mentally. Because when an underdog believes it can win, the pressure shifts entirely onto the favorite. Suddenly, every missed chance feels heavier. Every misplaced pass creates anxiety. And every minute without a goal gives the underdog more confidence. That's exactly what we've witnessed throughout the opening 2 weeks. The Giants aren't just playing against 11 players anymore, they're playing against belief. And belief can be one of the most dangerous opponents in football. If the first 15 days have taught us anything, it's this. There are no easy games left at the World Cup. Not anymore. Every nation has a plan. Every nation has talent. And every nation believes it can create history. But every great World Cup isn't remembered just for the results. It's remembered for the players who announce themselves to the world. And this tournament has already introduced a new generation of stars. Let's start with the United States. Folarin Balogun arrived at the World Cup, carrying high expectations after another impressive season in European football. Now he's proving exactly why so many believed he could become the face of American soccer. His movement inside the box has been exceptional. His finishing has been ruthless. But what stands out most is his composure. No panic, no wasted touches, just confidence. Every time the United States attacks, Balogun looks like a player who expects to score. And that belief is spreading throughout the team. For years, the United States had talented midfielders, creative wingers, athletic defenders. What they lacked was a clinical striker who could consistently finish chances on the biggest stage. Balogun is changing that narrative. Then there's Spain's teenage sensation, Lamine Yamal. At an age when most players are still trying to break into their club's first team, Yamal is already carrying the expectations of an entire football nation, and somehow he looks completely comfortable. His first touch, his vision, his decision-making under pressure. None of it feels normal for someone so young. He doesn't play like a teenager. He plays like someone who's been competing at this level for years. Every time he receives the ball, defenders hesitate. Do they press him, or do they give him space? Either choice can be a mistake. Because Yamal has the rare ability to create something out of nothing. Those are the players who change tournaments, not with one spectacular goal, but with moments that completely shift the momentum of a match. And perhaps the biggest story isn't about one individual at all, it's about an entire generation. Young players are no longer waiting for permission to become stars. They're taking over immediately. They're fearless, they're confident, and they're forcing football's biggest names to fight for every single moment on the pitch. That's what makes this World Cup feel different. It's no longer just a battle between football's traditional giants. It's becoming a battle between generations. The legends are still here. But the future has officially arrived, and it's happening much sooner than anyone expected. And then there are the moments that remind us why the World Cup is unlike any other sporting event on Earth. Because beyond the tactics, beyond the statistics, beyond the rankings, this tournament is about people. It's about dreams that sometimes take decades to become reality. One of those moments belonged to Egypt. For generations, Egyptian fans had waited to see their national team truly compete on football's biggest stage. Every qualification campaign carried hope. Every disappointment brought heartbreak. But this time the story felt different. When the final whistle blew after Egypt's historic victory, the celebrations weren't just happening inside the stadium. They stretched across Cairo, Alexandria, and Egyptian communities around the world. Players collapsed onto the pitch. Supporters cried. Families embraced complete strangers. For millions of people, this wasn't simply another football match. It was history. Moments like these are impossible to measure with statistics. They remind us that football means something different to every nation. For some countries, winning the World Cup is the expectation. For others, simply proving they belong on this stage is a victory in itself. And that's what makes this tournament so special. At the same time, football's biggest superstars continue writing new chapters in careers that already seem impossible to top. Lionel Messi once again finds himself at the center of another World Cup story. Every touch is analyzed. Every goal becomes another piece of history. Every appearance carries the weight of an entire generation wondering how many magical moments are still left. The same can be said for Cristiano Ronaldo. Whether you support him or not, watching legends continue to perform on football's biggest stage is something fans know they won't experience forever. These players have defined an era. But every tournament eventually reaches a turning point. The veterans fight to extend their legacy. The next generation fights to replace them. And somewhere in the middle, history is written. That's exactly where this World Cup stands today. The old guard is refusing to fade away. The young stars are rising faster than anyone imagined. And the underdogs are proving that reputation means absolutely nothing once the referee blows the whistle. Which brings us to the biggest question of all. Are these early surprises simply unforgettable group stage stories? Or are we witnessing the beginning of one of the most unpredictable World Cups in football history? Because if the opening 15 days have taught us anything, it's this: nobody knows what's coming next. And that's exactly why the world can't stop watching. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe because the knockout stage is just getting started. And if the first 15 days are anything to go by, the biggest stories are still waiting to be written.